This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Some of you may have heard that we're currently in the midst of a cicada apocalypse. I know a lot of people out there have been talking about it in regards to biblical prophecy, but I want to talk about it in regards to how it's being covered in the mainstream media. And of course, we cannot forget the fact that Billy Gates and all of these psychopaths have been breeding insects and then unleashing them on the public. People out there don't even realize that they've been sending mosquitoes, which of course bite humans, and they could transmit from the mosquito into a human's body certain somethings that they want inside of people's bodies, but they're unleashing insects on our society. For people that don't know, if you've ever wondered about ticks and Lyme's disease, that was all government created at a place called Plum Island. I've covered it a lot of times. I'll go into more detail in this video about the cicada apocalypse. I also, just before that, want to let everybody out there know that I have another channel called the Wake Up Call channel, and I'm uploading new videos over there. I have one up that not many people have seen in regards to Star Wars Day and how Apple is working with the government to promote this tracking app where you could find your friends. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable how they are working the minds of these sheeple. But again, when you have adults behaving like children, adults playing dress up at 40 and 50 years old and going to these events, this is how the government has gained control over the mind. So that video and that channel are linked below. Make sure you check it out and you subscribe to it now. I'm uploading new content over there. This channel is always ready to be deleted at any moment in time, and it's coming very soon. So make sure you sub to that channel now if you haven't yet. It's really important. I also have my video up over on that new bill that got passed, which will lead to the Bible being banned. So definitely subscribe now. So back to the cicadas. If you haven't heard about the cicada apocalypse, let me start by showing you how the mainstream media is covering. And of course, they want you to think it's normal for all these cicadas to just, terrorize the United States of America. And they tell you that it's not really a bad thing. They say this happens all the time. They say it's not bad for humans, so don't worry about it. And of course, they're pushing other things that'll cover after you see the video clip. But if you're not aware, this is the cicada apocalypse.
It's set to be the biggest invasion in hundreds of years. Not millions, not billions, but likely trillions of these pesky, incredibly loud cicadas. And right here in Georgia, the invasion has begun.
It is shocking to see this many.
And they're already coming out in South Carolina, where they're taking over Sarah Weinberg's backyard.
Did you think it was going to be this bad?
No. I really wasn't prepared because I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
This is my first invasion.
Okay.
They moved in, and they have stayed.
Stayed mostly under her gazebo, clinging onto every corner and crevice.
They think this is a safe spot.
It's already getting so loud in Newberry County, people are calling the sheriff to complain.
We had a leap year, we had an eclipse, now we've got cicadas everywhere.
Why so many this year? One set of cicadas comes out every 17 years, another every 13 years. This year, there's an emergence of both broods. That hasn't happened since 1803. They're coming out from Alabama to Missouri, and where they may overlap the most, Illinois.
They're talking, epic numbers, biblical kind of numbers of them in that area.
So something historic potentially is brewing in the Midwest.
It definitely is historic for sure.
Augusta, Georgia agriculture agent Campbell Vaughn says cicadas are harmless, but very loud.
The males are making the noise, and it's a little bitty buzz. I wonder if we can hear that.
So we have the sound level meter here. So let's pause and just see how loud they really are.
Getting about 60 decibels right here.
But at their peak, that could skyrocket to 100 decibels, about the same as a lawnmower.
Enjoy the noise. It's really a neat thing, so don't get too creeped out by them. Yeah, she gets creeped out by them.
Kathy Park, NBC News.
Not a pleasant feeling.
Augusta, Georgia.
So yes, we have a cicada apocalypse. They want to condition you into thinking that it's normal. Some people out there think that it's biblical, but when you read between the lines, there's a lot of things going on here with the cicada apocalypse. Of course, one of the things that we've seen, which is frightening about the cicada apocalypse, is the mainstream media is saying things like this. Time Magazine, Scientific America. Cicadas are basically safe for you and your dog to eat. Can you eat cicadas? Asked Time Magazine. No need to wait for cicadas. You can eat bugs in Chicago right now. So we have article after article after article out there, if you do a search on what's going on with the cicadas, about, hey, this is a cicada apocalypse. Why don't you take the time while, you're low on cash and low on money to go and eat the cicadas, right? And I'll get into more detail about this in a second. The other thing to note about the cicadas, like I said earlier, is the fact that the government is using and creating these things to destroy crops. Now, some of you might not look at cicadas as really, really bad for crops, but they actually are. They feed off of trees, right? So at the same time they're feeding off of trees, let's keep in mind that the government is talking about carbon vacuums to take the carbon out of the air instead of doing the obvious, which would be to plant trees. Now, I'm not saying that releasing cicadas is going to cause us all to suffocate and it's going to kill off a lot of trees, but it will kill some trees that are growing crops. And of course, we know that they don't want us growing crops. Now, I mentioned earlier about Plum Island. It's important to note, if you don't know about Plum Island, over on the website, I have a lot of stuff on Plum Island, which they moved to the center of the United States of America. This research facility is really a facility. What they're doing is not researching anything. What they're doing is they're putting viral diseases and viral airborne pathogens inside of insects, and then they're releasing them on the public. Lyme's disease, again, was created at Plum Island. Our government created it and then released it. What they're doing here is clearly releasing insects out into the open, and then people out there are the mindset's supposed to be, well, you can eat them, I mean, if the government can't get you to eat them willingly because they don't think you're going to go and buy them, well, they might as well send some out and then tell everybody out there, while there's a cicada apocalypse, why don't you just start eating them, right? Time magazine, known for their deafening mating calls, which can be as loud as lawnmowers, cicada emerge after more than a decade underground, offering a tasty meal to birds and even the occasional human. That's right, cicadas, like many insects, have been hailed as an eco-friendly and high-protein alternative to poultry and cattle. They're low in cholesterol, crunchy, and carry what has been described as a nutty flavor and shrimp-like quality. Restaurants have featured the bugs in experimental menus, while several cookbooks have even published dedicated recipes involving cicadas. So it says they teach you in this Time article. Step 1, how to catch a cicada. They teach you step by step what to do. Step 2, how to clean the cicada. And step 3, how to cook the cicada. So never before in human history have we really experienced the dumbing down of humanity like we are now, right? And people out there actually are going to see stuff like this as informative, not conditioning, informative. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's cicadas, I've heard that celebrities are eating bugs. I've heard that a lot of these big elites are talking about us eating bugs. I mean, there's going to be cicadas all over. Why not? Maybe with the kids this weekend, we'll catch them, we'll clean them, and we'll eat them. This is conditioning 101. The other thing out there that I need to know, on top of all the stuff, let's just recap, okay? They're telling you to eat the cicadas. No one's suspicious about the cicadas, and I get it. Cicadas come back out, okay? But they're unleashing cicadas. They're unleashing a lot of harmful insects on a daily basis, but don't forget about those GMO mosquitoes as well. And these things are eating trees. So if you're growing apples and things like that, the cicadas are harmful, even though they won't tell you that, okay? The other thing is this. Look what the BBC released. Why you should let insects eat your plants, right? So when we're talking about adults with the brains of not even a developing child, we're talking about the brains of an undeveloped, never going to develop infant, right? Or something along those lines. Something let's not even say a human, because a lot of these people don't even have a human brain in them. They have a brain of a squirrel, or that's giving them too much credit as well. Let's just say we have adults who are walking around with lobotomies, right? They're telling you why you should let insects eat your plants. You're not getting suspicious about this yet? Why you should let them. Be nice. Let the insects kill off our crops until we're dying of starvation and we don't have food anymore. Well, then what's this person going to say? We'll just call Uber Eats, right? Right? Let's let the plants eat our food. I mean, really? Yeah, apparently. Listen to this. Renegade gardeners across the world are embracing a new philosophy. Gardening that prioritizes insects, not plants. I mean, anyone out there? You scratching your head? Yeah. Looking through my window, I saw dozens of what looked like tiny gray caterpillars crawling all over a lovely green plant in my garden. I watched with horror as over a matter of days, these insects chewed the plant to bits. Countless leaves were munched to nothing, with only sad stems remaining. Finally, jet black flies, the gray gobblers transformed, went buzzing off into the world beyond, presumably to wreak havoc elsewhere. Initially, I felt like a farmer whose field of maize had been ravaged by locusts. However, a little Googling set me straight. It turned out that the plant in question, the name of which was previously unknown to me, was Solomon seal. Oh, that's interesting, right? It's an interesting name. A classic cottage garden plant that each summer becomes locked in a tussle with the very insect invader I had witnessed. Solomon seal sawfly, a female sawfly, had laid her eggs on my plant. Out of these eggs had hatched the gray larva that ended up devouring it. All of this was actually fine. According to the UK's Royal Society, the RHS, Solomon seal is relatively unbothered by this extreme defoliation. The insects can be tolerated and the plants will survive. It goes on to say, over the last few decades, a massive global crisis has affected insect populations, which are declining at a rate between 1% to 2% every year. This means that practically any intervention that could help these creatures is invaluable. Well, I don't think we have to worry about an insect depopulation going on because the government is making and breeding these things and then putting diseases inside of them and sending them out in the open. So I'm not really concerned about it. But of course, they want you to be concerned about it because people are as dumb as can be. So it goes on to say more people are planting for pollinators, with one 2022 survey finding 1 in 3 US adults purchase plants to help wildlife, an increase of 26% from 2020. So they kind of manipulate words here because no one's saying that we don't need, like bees and things like that, okay? No one's saying that. But what they're telling you here is that we should make plants, we should grow crops so that insects could eat the crops because the insects are more important than the food supply for adults and human beings. So that's what they're twisting in, right? How they're webbing this. They're webbing that story with also, at the same time, Time Magazine telling you about the cicada apocalypse and why this is a good thing and a good time for people out there to experiment and eat the cicadas. Yes, eat the cicadas, right? So this is a massive conditioning that's going on right now. While we all look at it and we laugh about what they're doing with the bugs and how they're telling us to eat Z-bugs and everybody makes, a big joke about it, right? This is ultimately what the plans are. And I'm so frightened to watch the mindset of some of these young people out there that actually are listening to the liberal run media because the celebrities are endorsing this stuff. And we've even seen it. I've covered over the years, some of the musicians in their music videos are eating bugs in the music video, right? This is just becoming more and more normal because this is ultimately the way they want you to live. Now, people go, what's the big deal? If you can eat the bug and the bug won't make, there's no nutritional value. Okay. And the less nutrition a human being gets, the more sick he becomes, the worse off he becomes. Okay. You could talk about mental health and all this other crap. How about just being able to function as a human being? Now, don't give me any, because people out there will argue and they'll be like, well, John the Baptist was eating locusts and things like that. Okay. We live in a time period where we don't want to go back to eating locusts. John the Baptist was living off of bug, they had to do what they had to do, I guess, during that time period. But they're almost asking us to give up eating nutritional food to go and regress to a point of eating bugs. So they're killing off our food supply chain. They're telling us not to eat meat. They're making fake meat. That's okay, but real meat's not okay. And then telling you to eat bugs at the same time while we're looking around and we're seeing all these problems with humanity and health, right? We're seeing people who are, their bodies aren't producing the right amount of this and the right amount of that, and they have to take supplements. Well, this just enhances that. And the one thing they tell you they don't want you to eat is probably the best thing for you to eat, which is meat, right? Which is meat. I mean, there's a reason that, when people go on carnivore diets and things like that they actually lose weight. People out there don't even realize, like these keto carnivore type diets, you'll lose a lot of weight really fast. Now, I'm not saying to go on that and it's the best thing for you because it affects your blood pressure and things like that. Okay, I'm not a dietitian. I'm just telling you that meat has benefits. There's benefits to meat. There's a reason that the government doesn't want you to eat meat anymore. And it doesn't have anything to do with caring about you. If the government says that this is what's in your best interest, obviously the first thing you should do is believe the opposite. Obviously, you should be suspicious when the government, whenever they're endorsing something. And what's Big Brother endorsing? What is New York City, right? Mayor Adams, the Freemason, Billy Gates, all these people, what are they endorsing? Plant-based meat. Plant-based meat, which again, I warned about on my other channel. And again, I mentioned it earlier, Wake Up Call channel. DeSantis is banning plant-based meat in Florida. Okay, these are obviously very, very scary honey traps that they're planting. That video's over on the other channel. So again, make sure you're sub to it. But the government overall is trying to not only tell you not to eat it, they're eventually going to ban it. And like I talked about, that direct energy weapon hit in Texas, they killed off a lot of livestock, right? So this isn't how they come in with other manipulative tactics. That's what this is, right? Everybody knows and has heard about this cicada apocalypse because the mainstream media is talking about it. Would you have heard about it without it? No, you probably wouldn't, unless you're in a town that's going to be affected. What they're telling you isn't just to be, not to be concerned. That's what they're saying. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But they're also telling you without pushing it on you that you can eat them. Teach your kids how to eat it. I mean, we're talking about Time magazine. I'm not talking about some, environmentalist blogger. Okay. We're talking about Time magazine, which when we look at all the crazy stuff going on in the world, there's the left media and the right media. Time magazine is kind of looked at as like a neutral media. It hasn't got run through the mud yet, the way like CNN has and mainstream liberal media has. I mean, I get it. The Time magazine obviously it's all one and the same, right? But they're still looked at, you can go to Time magazine. They'll give you advice on this or they'll tell you how to do that. Yeah. They're telling people out there how to eat the cicadas. So they're using this, whether they created it or not. You could debate with me day and night about that. Because I know people out there, they constantly want me, they get mad at me because they're like, you're not giving God credit for doing this or doing that. Well, there's certain verses in the Bible where it doesn't necessarily say that God is sending this or doing specific things like plagues, etc. But everybody out there interprets it that way because they don't realize that these people have the ability to weaponize weather. They have the ability, and they openly tell you this stuff. They have the ability to cause droughts. They have the ability to, create these bugs in laboratories, and they've been doing it. People have no idea about Lyme disease. They have no idea about ticks and what they did at Plum Island. And then when finally people got suspicious enough about it, they moved Plum Island to a different location. You ever see the pictures of all those things washing up on shore from Plum Island? Things that look like they're out of a horror movie. You're like, is that a cat? Oh, no, it's like a hybrid cat mixed with a pig that has the teeth of a vampire. Oh, does that look normal? No, it doesn't. What do you think? It just grew out of somebody's butt? They're making these things. They're manipulating DNA code. You see all this stuff in the movies, like the Jurassic Park movies with GMO dinosaur. I mean, they're telling you the stuff that they're doing. And in fact, the evidence is popping up all over the place. So much so that they had to move Plum Island because too much crap was washing up on shore in Rhode Island and all these other places that were off the shore there. And of course, that's where Lyme disease was created. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if they caused this cicada apocalypse they feast off of trees. Right? And I'm not going to say that, the cicada apocalypse is going to cause us to all... I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, look, even an opportunity like this, whether it's naturally occurring or not, the media is taking it, the globalist government is taking it as a chance to condition you into eating the bugs. And then, in fact, on top of that, telling you in the BBC straight out, why don't you grow plants for insects? Right? And that's not a new notion. Right? I get it that people, you want to breed bees. Okay, sure. Pollination. Yeah, I get it. Okay, I'm not stupid. However, you're conditioning people out there instead of planting their own food in their backyard to be more concerned about the insects. That's what they're telling you. They're saying, hey, what, you plan on growing tomatoes in your yard? Why do that? Why don't you grow something for the insects to feast on? They're endangered species. Oh, the poor insects. This is how stupid people are. They don't even realize it. They're telling you that it's in the name of science. And they're like, it's in the name of science. It's in the name of science to wear a mask around the clock. All these things that is not in the name or are not in the name of science. But of course, we know what science really means. It has nothing to do with science. It has everything to do with conditioning you into enslavement and accepting all the insanity that they want to control your day-to-day life. So I had to cover the story about the cicadas. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the Wake Up Call channel, it's linked below. Definitely check out that video that I talked about on Star Wars. The DeSantis video is up over there as well about the lab-grown meat ban in Florida, which everyone needs to know about because I talk about the herding in states, the red states and the blue states, Tennessee, Florida, Texas, emerging as big red states that they're going to use a lot of tactics like this to lure conservatives in and then be sitting ducks for weaponized weather as well as direct energy weapons. So those videos are up over there as well as what I talked about earlier with the Bible ban that's coming. This new bill they just passed is all about that. So don't go over there now if you haven't and check it out. I thank you guys again for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.